Good.
Good.
All right, man. Here we are. Well, Nick, much appreciated, sir, for making the time today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Continuing on with the Linchpin member interviews, and you've been around forever and ever and ever. Do you recall when you first came on board the private track? How long it's been?
Officially May 8th, 2018. Yeah,
20.
my daughter's birthday, so the date sticks in there.
Okay. May of 2018, and we're in 2024, so north of 6 years. That's got to put you in some rare category. That's fantastic. Well, before we launch into all that stuff, some people might be listening to this once it gets posted in audio format, and if they do, they're missing out on your fantastic
Right.
background, which is your garage gym. For those watching it and can see, what is that in your background? Because it almost looks like it could be a fake screensaver.
Right. It is not fake. A lot of people think it's a room above a garage somewhere. It's actually a third car garage. We, my dad's a home builder, so I literally sketched it on a napkin several years ago. And I said, if I could build my dream garage gym for CrossFit, this is what it would look like. And he had all the Amish craftsmen and all the know-how how to do it. So he literally built it the 15
Really?
from the 15-foot rope climb to the stars behind me are at 15 feet. Oh, I'm sorry, the standard, I'm drawing a blank. The standard wall ball height for
Uh,
men.
oh, 10 feet?
Right. And then these are for my wife, for Margie. Those are set to her height.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
doesn't tear up the drywall. But yeah, we have it kind of looks like Rogue sponsored and kind of just threw up inside of our garage gym. But literally the open finished in it was the end of the open in 2015, and our CrossFit gym said we're closing our doors. We literally got in the car the next week and drove down the road about 2.5 hours to our south, loaded up the SUV as much as we could fit, and brought it back. And we were originally in the main garage, and then a year later we moved in here.
Was your vehicle riding on the axle on the way back?
Oh yeah, it was filled to the brim. You could not see out the back. The only thing we didn't have were bumper plates. We got those elsewhere, but everything else from the wall balls to that whole fold back rig that you see was in that car. Yeah,
So your father built that garage?
he did.
Man, I'm always so envious of people that have those kind of skill. I'm not handy in any way, shape, or form. I mean, like, not at all. I don't care how detailed the YouTube video is and how simple the task is. It just goes terrible. For somebody to be able to do that, I think that's like a superpower. Did that get passed on to you?
Absolutely not. I mean, we just hooked up some electrical in our main garage a couple days ago, and I needed him for the basics. I mean, if I have to put a wire nut on something, I'm calling him first to make sure it's the right wire nut, whatever I'm doing. Uh,
I'm with you. That's my father-in-law. Emily's father is so handy, and he's such a kind man. Like whatever I need, I'll FaceTime him, kind of like show him a video or something. And somewhere in the back of his mind, there has to be just a sigh of disappointment about this guy that married my daughter can't do a darn thing.
yep.
But hey, it is what it is. So, give us, people have a sense now of how long either you've been with Linchpin or how long you've been, involved in CrossFit. But prior to your CrossFit days, long distance, am I correct in that? Running?
Long distance. So 17 years of it, actually. About, I think my tally was 29 marathons and 32 ultra marathons that went from my first marathon was in 1997 in the home of The Office, Scranton, PA. And that took me all the way until I started CrossFit in the fall of 2014.
Okay.
So in that time frame, ultras or anything over a marathon. So I did a lot of 50 milers, 50 Ks, 300 milers. But it really began with the marathon, and then it just bloomed from there.
Let's
And
let's let's pause there for a second because that's were you doing anything other than running? Were you a dedicated runner? Like, did you run and lift? Did you run in something else? Are you running?
Pat, I never touched a barbell, a kettlebell, a dumbbell. I was the stereotypical had the runner's body, so nothing up top, no muscle definition whatsoever, but I could run for hours and hours, literally. And
Okay.
so I had this engine or endurance that I could go. 100 miler requires that.
And you're
And
tall, so you've got a good stride.
Yeah, I'm 6'3".
Yeah, we're very different there as well.
Yes.
The For a marathon, like if you're good at a marathon, I know that you're holding a continuous pace during that. But when you stretch it out to something like a 50 miler, or you even mentioned a 300, at what point, and maybe it depends on the runner, but at what point does it become a bit of walking, bit of jogging, or is it continuous? Can you continuously jog for like 50 or 300 miles?
Yeah. Well, the 100, I did three 100
Three
milers.
100, okay, three
Yeah.
100 miles.
I
Okay,
didn't
right.
do a 300 miler.
A
So,
100 mile, okay, is ridiculous. I mean, 50 miles
yeah.
is ridiculous. 100 is crazy.
But that's a great question. So when it comes to a lot of those ultras, many times they're found on trails. So you'll find a lot of 50Ks and 50 milers, not always, but a lot of times they're on trails. So what I would typically do is I would be in somewhat of a shuffle on the flats. I would move with the purpose up the hills, and I would often pass people because I did this. It's very funny looking, but I would open up my stride and lean forward a little bit and take really big steps, which would lower my heart rate. And as I
Mm,
would cross the hill, I would take off down the other side. And I really excelled in those like 50K trail races. Now, when you start getting 50 miles or 100 kilometers or even 100 miles, it's a lot of walk, run, get out of the aid stations as quick as possible. Don't linger, that relentless forward motion with a purpose. And what happens is that you'll just get bursts of, it makes no sense that you can just run really well for a while.
mm.
And when you just, as it comes, you take it.
Capitalize on it.
Nutrition, taking care of your feet, hydration, everything, it all plays into, being injury free, which I pretty much was that entire time.
That was going to be my question. That's pretty impressive. I mean, because even done well, that's a lot of impact on the old joints. I mean, that's a
Mhm.
marathon, let alone a 50 or 100, and doing it for years and years and years. So that's pretty remarkable. Did you have some like amazing protocol that you were following that you think allowed you to do that, or do you think it just kind of luck favored you for whatever reason?
I think just listening to your body and doing
Yeah.
what you can do. There was a point where I ran a 3:21 marathon, which would be my PR, which was 2 decades ago. I more averaged in the 3:30 to 4, but I just kind of throttled that based on my ability. Now, I did eventually have surgery, on my right knee. That came, a year and a half ago, a meniscus tear. And I think that was just the beating up over time finally caught up with me. So I had a small surgery, which, thanks to you and the education at Linchpin, I was pedaling on the Echo bike the very next day, barely moving it, but just
Right.
and then doing box squats and just making my way out of that surgery and fully recovered. Um, but no, I was very fortunate to go through 17 years of that and without injury. And I have no athletic background. I mean, nothing. So you would have found me on the marching band field. I ran 1 year of freshman track, the 400. That was the only time I was on any kind of sport team in my life. So
Okay.
yeah,
And is long distance running like that kind of like an addiction? And what I mean is, why wouldn't a marathon be long enough? Then you try to find something that's longer than that. And then you're like, well, what else is even longer than that? I'm going to throw my
right.
hat in that ring. Like, what is that? I don't know, temptation or allure or intrigue? Like, what do you have any sense of that?
I think that's twofold. I think part of it's community. So typically you get involved with some type of local runner, whether it's a person or a group. And next thing you know, a lot of people are signing up for a particular race.
Peer
That
pressure.
drives you in peer pressure. Right. And you're going to run together. So, maybe you enter a marathon, you're saying you're going to run together for this marathon or what have you. But then and this is not everybody, the way I'm wired. I'm always thinking, well, what if the very next most difficult thing? So marathon's not enough, 50K. And then I just kind of whet my appetite with a 50 miler. And I'm like, I wonder if I could go 100. The
Mm,
same thing happened when I did Spartan a couple of years ago. I asked myself after I did my first, what's the hardest?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the ultra, and it's at 50K distance, but it's 60 obstacles. And I know it's going to be terrible, and that's okay.
That's cool. Okay. So you eventually, what from such a distinct and all-in running background led you to kind of a totally different sort of a fitness, which was not being amazing at one thing, but we want to be pretty darn good at a whole bunch of stuff.
I got invited to a CrossFit class November. I remember this date too, November 4th, 2014. It was a 3-rounder. I got humbled by a 35-pound kettlebell that day. It was a 3-rounder of a 250 row, some amount of kettlebell swings, and some air squats.
Okay.
All it was. It was very simple, and I loved how it laid me out. And I basically cold turkey distance running. I actually ran to the gym for a while, and then I just totally stopped. And Margie and I, my wife, we started going to that gym, and that started it all. Never looked back.
Interesting. Okay. And then you were at that particular gym you said until it had to close its doors one day.
That gym was only from November until the spring of the very next year, and I left it. It just did not work. The ownership, it was oil and water. I did the open there, and and then after that, I joined a brand new gym that had just opened their doors, and then they were only open for a year.
Okay. Okay.
It was a very, I would call it a boutique gym. I don't know if there's such a term, but very different. A lot of things have stuck with me. A lot of not good things. So I'm very thankful that that gym closed and we moved on to do this.
Okay. So you went from that one to your
Mhm.
garage.
Correct.
So you've been in the garage for quite a while, even before you joined Linchpin.
2016.
And what were was it a bit of this, a bit of main site, a bit of your own recipe, a bit of, what were you doing each day?
Exactly. It was what a lot of people do. They shop around the internet. I was watching, I believe Wadwell quite a bit. Well, I love
Okay.
doing hero wads. I was watching Linchpin, of course, main site, making up my own stuff every once in a while. Yeah.
And you obviously did that for quite a while. So what in the world one day made you say, well, I'm gonna dip my toe in this linchpin water and see if it sticks?
Uh, it was dirt cheap, and I was like, let's give it a shot.
Why
Because
not?
back then there weren't all of these options. You didn't even have a cool down. Not that I ever cool down, but you didn't have cool downs. There was no Leo. There was
Oh
just a
no.
basic workout. You had a video, and beyond the whiteboard was there, but not much else.
It was certainly way, way, way more bare bones than it has evolved to right now, like for sure. And because you dipped your toe in the water, and what made you stick around?
Wow, it's a great question. I should know you'll ask me this. Community is one, accountability is another. I trust you completely. We share a lot of the same goals. My goal is not aesthetics. It's really to be able to grow old with my wife and be able to get out of chair without assistance, and not much else. Just to take care of
Mhm.
the gift that I've been given. I mean, every day I come out, I was thinking about it this morning during those 100 V-ups. Thank you very much. And I was thinking
That's
about how
looming in my future in about 30 minutes.
yeah, that was actually the worst part. The just being able to do it, with so much death and disease and everything that happens out there, even people, I'm 51 now, people that I graduated high school with that are on disability in assistive devices and not able to do things. I just want to be able to do that. So through your education, we align, and I completely trust you. I love the community. That's about it.
And it is folks like you, and again, it sounds like a broken record, but the community really is, as far as I'm concerned, like a secret weapon that we have at Lynchpin. I don't know how we continually just get, I mean, lucky for lack of a better way to say it, but the people that come in are really wonderful, wonderful people. And I'm sure, there's thousands of people, so I'm sure that, in the real world over cups of coffee, there'd be, crazy topics in the world that we disagree about, potentially quite heated and, this and that. But everybody comes to this one space where they
Mhm.
leave all that nonsense out there and we just help each other along with fitness. It's like just like united by this one common goal. Doesn't matter where you're from, what age you are, what ability level you are. Um, and that's kind of it's like a little rare unicorn these days. And you played a significant role in helping what is one of the largest parts of Linchpin to help experience that community. There's a squad feature in the BTWB app, which is phenomenal, but there wasn't always a private Facebook group. And you were, one of the largest advocate of like, hey, I think this would be a really good idea. And my hesitancy was that Facebook is usually just a toxic dumpster fire, and that's not what I want for Linchpin. It's the polar opposite. And but you were persistent, and we gave it a whirl, and it's been glorious. So I guess this is just my public way of saying thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook and most of social media is a cesspool.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it really makes no sense. Just like what's been going on in the CrossFit, community in the last couple of weeks, you would not know it. You
Mm-hmm.
you would not know it because people really do keep the conflict in their personal opinions that could be toxic. They keep it in their own spaces on different other platforms. It just doesn't happen in there. It makes no sense. We just keep plowing forward. And I'll be honest, when I have something to share personally that maybe happened in my life, like I just drove across the country to California and took my daughter for the Air Force, I actually have a sense that I want to share it first in that Facebook group, not even on my personal Facebook. I actually want to share it with my quote fam, with Linchpin. That's where I actually want to go first. It's the strangest thing, but that's typically, I've been real sensitive. Like I want to go there first before I even share it personally. And I
I
think that's
know.
a testament to the community because we are global and it's so welcoming there.
Yeah, it's pretty darn unique and in the best way. So again, yeah, just huge thanks to you because I was quite staunchly against the idea of a Facebook group, but it turned out to be incredible. So, you are certainly a great advocate of Linchpin as well. And maybe if people want to find something, you recently wrote, was it a 6-year review, a 5-year review? What did you just write? You wrote recently for Linchpin. You posted
Something
on
on Reddit, and it kind of went crazy on Reddit. So it would have had to been what, 6 years? Yeah.
yeah, I think a 6-year review. So,
Mhm.
you know, not paid to do it, not whatever, if somebody wants to find that, maybe I'll try to find that link and maybe post it here under when this video goes on YouTube or whatnot. But having been in the community for 6 years, you're kind of in a unique position to um give one heck of a like because you've seen the evolution, like you said, when the private track had literally nothing to what
Nothing.
it has now and everything in between. You're so intimately involved in that community. Who are the folks, not to put you on the spot, maybe have you maybe blank their names, that do you really look for somebody's post each day to kind of see what they're doing or connect with some certain people in there that, we can kind of give some shout outs to?
I don't really compare myself to anybody when it comes to looking at their times and what they did. I actually purposely don't look at that before I walk in the garage. And
Smart man.
many times I make a game time decision of what I'm going to do. Like someday I look down at my sandbags and I'm like, they look lonely. Let
Yeah.
me
Oh yeah.
replace the barbell today. And then afterwards, sure. Now, if there's something that like maybe it's on the Echo bike or something I might have a shot at Ben, I'll sell my soul to try to get him. And sometimes I get just so very close. Now, Tanner, I have no chance. He's a beast.
Oh my goodness.
Does it with that. I mean, his chair force, I mean, his Air Force helmet. But yeah, I'm thinking of these screen names, Mocha Laney, just
Yep,
we have
yep.
awesome people that post nearly daily. You just Patrick S, the other Patrick S, you just interviewed
Mm.
recently.
Hmm.
And I think that's an inspiration because he's about 8 years to my north, as far as age wise, and he's still showing up and he's scaling appropriately and he's happy doing it. So those are a few folks that I think are inspirational and they feel part of the community that I look forward to seeing what they're doing. So
Well, let me ask you this maybe as a good way to kind of close a little bit, which is you've got all that experience running. You've got all experience in just CrossFit, over 6 years with Linchpin. You're busy. You're a father, you're juggling things with employment. What are some of the lessons learned for fitness, for longevity, for making sure that you don't burn out, that maybe you wish you had known, 10 or 15 years ago that help keep you in the game every day now?
Showing up is critical. So even if, like, I was locked up in that box when I was deployed back in Africa in 2020 for 19 and a half days, could not even take a walk outside this small little Connex box. But I
Yeah,
had to
well,
know,
tell people why. Why? That sounds weird. So why were you locked up in a Conex box?
well, I got COVID on a flight over to Djibouti, Africa. And this was right at the beginning, April 2020 of the pandemic. So tested positive, and I couldn't even take a walk for 20 days. So that no equipment option was there, but I kept showing up. That's the point, is that I even when I, like you, when you're ill, I still want to get something in. When I
Mm,
had surgery, I still showed up and did something, whether it's even a walk down the street. But showing up and then really recognizing, we're not getting any older. So recognizing that I have a dry erase board here to my left that's full of PRs. And the black ink is on there so hard that I have to get probably a cleaner to get it off if I set one, because they're
hmm.
old. So I would say showing up, I would say showing yourself grace, and not the workout grace, but showing yourself grace that you're dealt a hand and you do the best you can with that hand that you're dealt every single day, and you make a decision based on that. Scale appropriately, enjoy it. If you're not walking out of the garage happy with a smile on your face, I would say you need to recalibrate how you approach the morning. You really should, no matter what you scale to, leave happy and then show up the next day.
Love it. I'll tell you what, maybe a final thing, non-fitness related. So you transitioned out of years in a particular occupation. Now you find yourself, in the full-blown civilian sector here as a real estate agent, correct?
I am.
How has that transition been, and how are you enjoying this new phase of your, occupational life?
So yeah, April of 23, I left government work from punching a time clock, moved into real estate, but I'm still in the military as a reservist. So being able to straddle, still being in uniform, working in real estate, working from home. I got a pup behind me who I love dearly. I have loved it. I put everything through a filter right now. The filter is, if it doesn't bring joy in my life, I'm not going to do it. So
Fair
serving
enough.
serving others, whether they're in the Linchpin community, whether they're in real estate, whether they're in the military, or I just got my substitute teaching license with the local school district.
No kidding.
On days when when I have that slot of time where maybe I'm not doing something with the military or real estate, and they need someone to step in, what a better opportunity to step in and try something different, something new and uncomfortable that I haven't done before, perhaps, and pass it on to the next generation. So if it doesn't bring joy, it's not happening. And
Okay. And I know I keep lying and saying last thing, but not
that's
financial advice, right? Let's go ahead. We'll do that little caveat right now. But
sure.
as a boots on the ground individual, what's your sense of where the real estate market is right now? Because it's been rugged for quite some time.
It's rugged. We just underwent brand new rules, just went into place on Saturday, that
Oh, really?
are a ripple effect across the entire industry, that directly affect commission and how people are paid. It completely upends the way it's been done for decades and decades.
I
So
think I saw the beginnings of this story months ago.
it's in the National Association of Realtors lawsuit. And that's a
Yeah,
longer
for
than most
sure.
rabbit trails you go down. So we won't go there, but the market is still in such a way, especially around here where there's no inventory. Interest
Mhm.
rates went from that 2 and 3% to nearly 8%. And that has kept a lot of people on the bench and not putting their homes on the market. If they don't have to move, they're not moving, especially if
Right,
they have a
sure.
mortgage and they're in that low interest rate. So it's to the point now where if I put a house up for sale on my street here, within 2 to 3 days, I'll probably have 5 to 10 offers, and it's off the market.
Just because the inventory is so low, even though rates are still historically high.
Historically, well, they're not even anywhere near historically the highest, but they have
Well,
actually.
like 1980s high or anything.
Oh yeah, it can go much higher than 8%, but now we're
Sure.
down below 7 even. So we're actually getting a little bit more comfortable. So where it's going, I think values are they're going to stay high. The values are going to stay high, but the interest rates really need to take some steps down in order to get people to come off the bench. And
Well, there's whispers in the wind of, anywhere from 1 to 3 Fed cuts in before the end of 2024. Now, who knows if that will actually materialize? Will it be 0 cuts? Will it be three? Will it be 25 basis points? Will it be more? Like, who knows? But I have to assume if the Fed, from whatever meeting they say, yes, it's a cut, even if it's 25 basis points, that's going to probably be quite a positive spark to the market.
you think on a 3, 4, $500,000 mortgage, a quarter point is significant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that might be the spark that brings some life back in there. So
Mhm.
we'll see. Well, let everybody know, if you so desire, how can they find you out in social media land or wherever?
Yeah, so Garage Box Nick is my handle on Instagram. That's where I typically am living. Pretty easy to find there. I'm extremely Googleable, if that's even a word, just because being a realtor, easy to find. So you can really Google my name, and typically what you find there is you'll find years of race results, which is hilarious. You'll find all kinds of things from 5K to the marathons and all that. But yeah, Garage Box Nick on Instagram would be the best place to find me.
Well, again, as like I said before, man, much appreciated for all you do in Linchpin. You're a huge just supporter of the community that doesn't go unnoticed, and people enjoy what you bring to the table in your posts. So appreciate you, Nick.
Appreciate you. Thank you very
All right.
much.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.